Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Halloween edition. I am dressed up as a ghost, if you couldn't tell. What? You didn't see that one coming. GuildCast, episode 47 for October 31st, 2012. It is Halloween. I'm Gary again. This is Gamebreaker TV. Halloween is almost over. Most of you are probably doing Act 4 right now as we're just taping this live. But we've also got a new update coming November 15th. We're going to talk about that. Guesting is coming, maybe, sometime, maybe not, I don't know, maybe. And, of course, your viewer questions like we do every single week. All that and more, but first, of course, Sam.com's editor-in-chief, Mr. Scott Hawks. How are you, sir?
Hello! I'm very well. How are you doing? I'm dry.
Well, you're doing better because you have at least power, which
yes,
more than most of your end of the neck of the woods there.
Yeah, our poor, of course, fallen colleague, Richie, who can't be with us tonight because the poor fella's without power, so hope things sort out soon for you, Richie.
Yeah, you're doing well if you have power. I have tons of family and everybody back on the East Coast, and yeah, lots without power. My grandfather's got a tree in his house. Pretty bad.
Oh, dear me.
Elizabeth Claire from Massively.
Hello.
Elizabeth Claire, you're doing okay. You've got just like kids running around in the background though, trick-or-treating
Yeah,
or something.
we've got kids like crazy, but that's about it. They're their own natural disaster, to be honest.
All right, stay tuned. We're going to burn them at the end of the show. Stay tuned for that. And filling in for Richie Procopio, who does not have power but is safe. Jason Winter,
Richie.
contributing editor to Gamebreaker TV. Back up, Richie.
Back up, Richie. Yes, this is Richie's Jason Winter costume.
It's a fine one. It is a fine
Pulling it
one.
off.
Got its own voice
Oh, yeah.
effects.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
does.
Well, I've got something special on my mic.
Mm.
I think Vivox came up with that technology or somebody. All right, so happy Halloween, everybody. I think everybody's pretty much seen most of what the event has to offer at this point, 1 week later of the Halloween event. First off, I'm just going to ask, what do you guys think overall? I mean, did ArenaNet do a good job on the first ever like in-game event that we've seen for Guild Wars 2? I'm going to start with Elizabeth, since you're the Guild Wars 1 fanatic as well, so you've seen what they've done in the past. What did you think? Good job?
I think they hit it out of the ballpark, quite honestly. I don't know if people agree with me or not, but that is definitely my opinion.
What was the highlight of you for you?
I don't know, probably the first time we ran into Ascent to Madness. It was fabulous and awesome, and nobody knew what we were doing because it had been up for a minute, and it was awesome.
Scott, what did you think?
I have to say it's been really impressive. The way they've rolled it out in stages, each stage has added a slight accentuation to it, so you've had different things to do. It's built and built and built, and it's just been fun. And I can't believe people complained. I think of people complaining about Ascent to Madness when it entered. Is that it? It's not a huge. What? It's easy. What's going? Honestly, it blows my mind. But yeah, we went in, and Jason and I and Richie went in to Ascent to Madness. Did lots of face planting and missing jumps, which was fun. And run around. But yeah, it was really easy, but it was a good laugh. And it looked great, and it's all been really impressive. Graphically, it's fantastic. And the clock tower makes me want to drown things, but in a good way.
We're going to talk about the clock tower in just a bit. Definitely a highlight. Jason, what'd you think overall, though? Good job?
Highlight, low light, whatever. But yeah, in general, yeah, I really liked it. I'm usually not into holiday stuff and MMOs that much. Usually it's like there's a little thing here or there or a collection quest and you can get a hat or something. But this was like a real full update with all sorts of new stuff happening. And of course, the Mad King's Ascent at the end, sort of end. That was really the climax for me, and I loved it.
So what do you guys think? I mean, Act 2 opened up with the quest that you had you collecting more pages about Mad King's book. Liz, what did you think of that whole? Did you enjoy that part?
Yeah, it was super neat. It was a little more in-depth than the original set of page collecting had been. I was a little put off by how calm my character was as she was collecting all this information. Like, she goes and talks to this man who, spoilers, so if you're listening to this and you don't want to hear them, turn it off.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about back piece, like, you know, because people at
it's
this point,
totally
they probably...
backstory, but people
But you've
get
missed it,
upset, man.
so... Yeah, but they missed it at this point because it's going away. So at this point, you might as well just spoil it because it's going to be gone.
All right, so you find this man, you track down this man's ghost, and he was held hostage to get his daughter to agree to marry the Mad King Thorn, and then his daughter was burned alive later. And he tells you this story, and you say, oh, thanks, I'll write that down in my book. And you move on. Like, there's not even like, hey, I'm sorry that you had such a horrible, horrible life, or hey, rest in peace to your daughter, or anything like just, oh, thanks, okay.
Thanks, bro. Let me write that down. Let me jot that down.
That was an interesting dialogue choice. But other than that, like I said, it was a little more involved and it was super fun. Had you going to a little higher level places than I expected. I think you had to go to like a 55 zone, which made it a little inaccessible for some people, which was an interesting choice.
Why do you guys think? Why are the back pieces so hard to get? A little weird, isn't it?
It's probably because they look really cool. I'm annoyed because I haven't had enough time to get one. And I've been doing the clock tower, and there's lots of people standing around me with those books with the demonic faces and the flames shooting off the back. And I'm a little bit crabby about the fact that I'm not going to get to have those.
I had time, I just didn't have enough skill. Oh, the clock tower.
I think it'd be really interesting if they used the books as a sort of commemorative piece for other events as they go along, because it's the closest you can get to a cape or something to display a specific achievement. So rather than silly hats, maybe they're doing really, really awesome back slot items, which would be cool by me because I think it's amazing, and I wish I could get one for my necro, but that's not going to work.
What about some of the other stuff that was going on? I mean, there was tons of Halloween-related stuff going on in the world, or at least in Kryta. What were some of the highlights for you guys, Scott?
Just running around and jumping in the games. I mean, doing some of the events to get the doors to open originally is what you do, the dynamic events. Solve them, the doors would open. And just doing that was fun. But then when you got in and the PvP, the PvP elements of it were really good. And they had a little bit of flavour to them. It wasn't just straight up, wiping each other out. I mean, when you had to go and, you got to try and just survive as long as you can, and then if you get killed, then you've got to go and convert them and kill them. That sort of dynamic, it's just really interesting, really good laugh. And it was one of them things, if you wanted to just do it once and think, oh, that was fun, I want to do something else now, you could. It wasn't mandatory, you had to grind it to death. But if you did and you just really enjoyed it, you could just replay it over and over again and just have a good time with it. So there was little bits for everybody to do and get lost in. And if you found something you really liked, then it paid off for you, and you could just keep on doing it. So it was really well put together.
Jason, any other highlights for you stand out in Kryta?
I just loved mining candy corn. that taking my little pickaxe and going chop, 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 getting the chink sound, and it's candy corn. It was like this. It was like you go around and there's an iron ore, there's silver ore, candy corn ore, raw candy corn. It was like a special treat.
It was quite pathetic, actually. I'm running past, various ores. Just go, forget that, there's candy corn, hey! Running in, ding, ding, ding. Oh, I feel so happy now. And I I detest Halloween, with an Englishman's humbug kind of harumph.
Really?
But
why is
I
that?
Into this.
Why is
I just
that?
it's like, I don't know, this is going to sound bad, but it's a very American holiday. It's an incredibly American holiday, which is cool. But when I grew up, just didn't give a crap about Halloween. It just, there's a horror film on tonight, or whatever.
This from the man who leaves butter on his counter. Can we really trust him?
Well, I don't. I put it in the fridge.
Liz, you love Halloween, don't you?
I love Halloween in Guild Wars.
Halloween?
I don't really care one way or another about Halloween for realsies, but
Wow.
I like the magic.
I love discounted candy after Halloween.
Yes.
That's my favorite part of Halloween.
See, I was going for it gives chicks a reason to dress up and just look totally hot, and they get away with it.
You won't see those pictures till later this week.
Should I move on? Anybody jump into Mad King's realm?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yes.
Anybody?
Mm-hmm.
How was it, Scott?
It was lots of fun. I like the idea of the labyrinth was essentially if you just want to go and kill things for a long time, go ahead and go crazy. There wasn't any great sort of like thing to it. It was just here's a big place to go and kill stuff in, and if you want to go and farm stuff for your trade skills and so on, it was great. Like giant bones,
Ancient bones dropped like.
yeah.
Scott loves his giant
It was
bones.
amazing.
As I said on that run, yeah, it says if you like giant bones, Ascent to Madness is the place to go.
Place to be. Yeah.
But also, yeah, the labyrinth was great. If you just want to go in and kill for a while and just farm and have a bit of a laugh, and sometimes it got quite challenging when you've got a big group on you and things like that. It was a good laugh. So as I said, the whole thing was just go and have fun in different places and whichever one you have most fun in, you can go and do as much as you want. And that's the way a holiday thing should be.
Yep.
In my so if you want to do the whole grind thing for achievements, you can. But if you want to just go and have a laugh and just mess around a bit, it was there for you.
It really is kind of mind-blowing how much content they put in for a one-off event that just goes away. It almost makes you wonder how great the tool set is in the background of how much time they actually have to put in. I mean, I'm sure there's a significant amount of time, but I wonder if they've streamlined that to the point that they can push content out like this on a fairly reasonable level of development cycle, like where it's kind of shorter than most other games out there. Because it just seems like an awful lot of man hours to put into, 4 acts of an event, and these are all just going to go away.
Well, the other thing to think of, too, is that this is coming so soon after release. You see that a lot with some MMOs. They'll have a decent chunk, a big update or whatever, shortly after release, which probably means they're working on it currently. In some cases, it might have been something they wanted to get in at launch, but couldn't quite make it. That wouldn't be the case here, but it was probably something that was... It's probably like 75-80% done by the time they launched, maybe, and they just refined it and did the last stuff over the last couple months.
Yeah, the nice thing about holiday content is, they've got it done and they can kind of set it aside to reuse next year. I mean, they might add more stuff on, but this is something they can look forward to having repurposed and reused year in and year out.
Oh, that's true. Is that something that you saw in Guild Wars 1? Did they actually repurpose it?
Not repurposed so much, but like the Mad King was a fairly regular event. Every year you kind of knew what to expect. He comes in, he tells his jokes, you play rock, paper, scissors with him, you die if you lose. So you knew that was something that was going to happen, and over time with other holiday festivals they did the same thing where, you would have this one thing that was repeated every year, and over time they would add new things, or the Mad King would get new jokes. So they've put this infrastructure in place, so hopefully they'll be able to just kind of spruce it up and send it out the door again this time next year.
And you've got to be thinking, they've been talking about what they're going to be doing for live events, and live events post-launch is a big part of their strategy for retention and have people keeping on coming back into the game. I mean, I know in like Triple B, it's been noticeable. There's been a lot of people coming back in on a greater basis to play just because of the event. So if that's part of their long-term strategy for releasing regular content, that they've got to have that basically whole infrastructure waiting as they're developing the game for when it comes in, and this is their first big example of it, so they've got to be working on this for a while, one would think.
What about some of the mini games? What were some of the mini games you guys got to check out? How were they?
So the two kind of special activities that were off on the side were Reaper's Rumble and Lunatic Inquisition, which were actually a PvP game type. Reaper's Rumble was kind of MOBA-esque in that there were 3 lanes. You could chuck pumpkins into your mausoleum/nexus, and it would spawn things to start walking down those lanes to attack the other people's mausoleums. And it was just super fun. One thing that I really enjoyed about most of it was that it was super accessible. The only thing that wasn't was the clock tower, but you didn't actually need that for the Halloween achievement, apparently. So you had a bunch of stuff that was really easy to jump into and just kind of have fun with and be a madcap slaughterer, which everybody likes to indulge in occasionally. So those were 2 really fun game types, just super easy to get into and start wreaking havoc, and they were awesome.
So you mentioned the clock tower.
Did.
I liked it. What madman or woman?
It was a madman.
What madman thought of this? Because this was completely and utterly crazy, epic. Did any of you complete this?
The lady there did.
I did twice. I have 2 pairs of Mad King slippers.
Crazy lady
Twice!
over there.
Wow. I was cursing this monster up and down.
I could not stream it because it would have turned the stream blue. I was cursing so violently.
How many
It's
times did
so
you guys actually have
difficult.
to do this? I'd love to see the stats on how many players actually completed this and how many just gave up. Not easy.
Right, people are saying like once, because unfortunately for me, due to certain circumstances this week, I didn't get as much time to play as I would have liked to.
Oh, what'd you get? A little
so-
rain, a little wind. Stop it.
It got a bit rough,
Okay.
but here and there. But like I didn't get enough time on. I only got like probably a couple of hours total, and that's not all together, just over the few days here and there. But people are saying like, you know, it really is once you've got it, then that muscle memory kicks in, but you've got to repeat it over and over again.
You just have to do it enough times.
Yeah, you got to just know it's every little tiny bit, so that learning curve for each part really kicks in. But it was just so much fun, and it's so difficult being a father of a 3-year-old while trying to do that, because my face has nearly exploded with my desire to utter expletives while doing it, and my daughter goes running past, I'm like,
It was terrible.
I'll get it next
but
year.
it's great, yeah. It's really fun, and
It's,
it was fun to the point it's addictive, and you want to slap your face for doing it again, but you know, I can't stop, I gotta do it, and you just keep on going. So I think the whole thing was really well done, and I want to do that bit here.
This
I
bit
haven't.
right here.
And Elizabeth's being very smug.
She is, because she beat it not once but twice, Scott. I don't know if you've heard. You don't forget the memo.
Yeah,
She
I
beat it
did.
twice.
I did hear that.
Twice.
All right.
on
How
the
many
other hand,
how many runs would you estimate, Liz, to go for twice?
Well, each run can't last more than 90 seconds, and I definitely was at it for about 3 hours before I beat it the first time, and some of them are a little bit shorter than that, so many, many, many times.
Many.
Many,
third power.
many times. It was really fun. So it was one of the first things I did when that act started, was got down there and ran through it a billion times and felt very, very stupid. And so I was in this whole group of people. There were probably 15 people jammed into the puzzle, and we were all making it harder for each other, because you've got, you know, this one Norn guy with a hat that goes out to here and a char with antlers and like 18 snags on his shoulder plates, and you just can't see anything. So everyone's like, well, strip down your armor. So everyone's running around in like their pants or nothing, like just going up this tunnel to try and do as little screen clutter as possible. And it was just really fun, even though we were all completely frustrated with it. So I really enjoyed it. I felt amazing when I beat it, and I didn't necessarily want to go back right away, even though I did. But it was, I didn't really see the point of people getting like super just angry and bitter about it.
I think you nailed it on the head, though, as far as like doing content like this, is that you felt it was challenging enough that you felt so good to actually complete it, which is something that MMOs are usually lacking of in these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially at least unless you're like a hardcore raider and you're doing like high end raiding, there's usually not a lot of stuff in the world that's so challenging that you're like, wow, that felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of gone out of fashion, really, in MMOs the last few years in a lot of ways. It's like, well, we're scared that if it's difficult, then people won't like it and they won't play our MMO. So we'll make it as wishy-washy as humanly possible, and then nobody will give a crap about it after 2 months. So yeah, it's nice to have stuff in that's challenging and frustrating, and that actually has that sense of achievement when you've done it. Because there needs to be more of that in MMOs. Really needs to be more of that. We need to get away from this. We've got to make it so everybody can do absolutely everything on the first try. Like everything needs to feel like the newbie zone that you start an MMO off in.
Well, then when you don't have that, you don't have those emotional peaks and valleys, right? You need those high moments and those low moments. And the only way to have a high moment is to kind of be it's got to be so hard because you don't want to be so frustrated that you just don't want to complete it. But it's like, I don't know. I think they did a great job.
Right.
It's tuning that balance. It's getting that difficulty. So for most people, it's tough, but you can get there if you put a little effort in, and the effort is what makes it feel like a payoff when you do it. And so if there's no effort to it, there's no real payoff at the end of it. It doesn't matter if it looks shiny at the end. It just doesn't matter.
I quote Homer Simpson when he said, anything hard isn't worth doing.
They did sorry.
Let's say I quit after like 15 minutes. I was like, no, can't do it. Not gonna. No.
They kind of towed the line by, I don't think that achievement was necessary for the Halloween overarching achievement. There was an emissary for the Mad King title that depends on having done the other achievements, and I don't think the jumping puzzle is necessary for that. So they did make it so that you didn't have to be the estimated 5% of players who would actually beat the puzzle to do that. So that was a good balance, I thought.
So Act 3 kicked off with this the one-time only event in Lion's Arch that turned out to be this cutscene coming up here. Richie got a hold of this, thanks to him, and hope he's safe. Pretty cool, interesting way to do it. Watching on YouTube, I hope is not just as good as seeing it in game, but for a lot of people, I guess it's going to be. So what this opened up was a Halloween dungeon. I assume you guys jumped in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What'd you think?
Yes, we went.
And we were like, really? There's a dungeon? That's what they're gonna do? Awesome. But yeah, it was more than we were expecting by far.
We were lucky actually because it was going to be me, Jason, Richie, and Elizabeth, but it sort of balked on us, so Elizabeth couldn't come in, which was a shame. But me, Jason, and Richie went in with a couple of the Triple B Brigade, and yes, we just had a blast. We just ran through, and it was all very silly, and we were killing. Yes, there was quite a bit of swearing. It has to be said.
No, we did not swear because we knew Richie was recording.
We were recording, weren't we?
You came really close once.
Yeah, I had to bite my lip till it bled a few times. But no, really, it was difficult at all. It wasn't difficult. It was really straightforward. But it looked cool, and the Mad King itself, the model, and the dance and everything else. The Mad King says was fun, and it was just we ran through. It didn't take very long. If you wanted to go back in, you could and repeat it, and it wasn't that difficult to do that. But I mean, I didn't really feel the need to because I knew I was going to have time to grind it through to go after something called the Crossing. Hey, Liz, did you try and do that? Go after the Crossing?
I went into that dungeon more than 50 times. I saw probably 50 times with 5 players in a group. I probably saw 30 or 40 exotics get handed out. None of them, 2 of them were to me, and none of them were any of the elite Halloween skins. But it was a blast. Like, you would just find people and go through it a billion times because it takes about 15 minutes if you're all fairly well leveled and you know what you're doing and you don't needlessly jump off cliffs and things, which everybody does, which is adorable. I think my actual highlight. No, I did it all the time too. My actual highlight of this entire event is fighting the Mad King and seeing someone like just barely at the back of your field of vision go plummeting downwards. It was just my favorite thing, and it happens every time. Like, no matter how many times you go in with the same people, so you know they've been in there multiple times, somebody's always just gonna like cut too short or like jump the wrong way because they forget which ledge they're on. It was amazing. Or they get feared off the edge because the Mad King and his scarecrows all had fear skills, and the island it was on wasn't entirely fenced in. So if you had already used up whatever your cheat out of fear was, you were kind of SOL if you used it again. It was just awesome.
I used Leap of Faith on one of the jumps because I thought it would help me get further. That was a mistake!
Oh
no! I was a little bit nervy. I'm like, I'm not sure. It's the first time I've done this. Let's use Leap of Faith and maybe it'll get me across. Oh no! And plummeting to face plant and death, which didn't do very
I really saw more people dying because of face planting off jumps than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The boss wasn't difficult at all. Just stay out of the red circles. You can kill the scarecrows. Like the plants are scarecrows, and they generate stuff that can be difficult if you stay near them. But really, you can just avoid them and not even bother with the scarecrows and just DPS the boss if you want. Wasn't a problem at all. So yeah, face planting was the major problem in that.
More deaths from that than from the actual monsters.
So bring me up to speed now. So Act 4 finally kicked off today, and I'm assuming it might be over by the time this show is actually up. So I think it's going on right now as we're doing this show. But tell me what it's all about. Who's had time today to jump in and actually do this?
I think Scott got into it.
Yeah, I went to Lion's Arch, and in the center of Lion's Arch, every now and again, the Mad King turns up and appears and says, "Oh, Mad King says," and you have to emote. Yeah, the voice is really well done. It's really well done. You have to do the emote when you say, Mad King says, we play Simon Says, and you do it. If you do it enough and you keep going round, it's amazing how many people didn't, because you can see them because they get a pumpkin over their head and drop dead. And then, well, they don't drop dead, but they get flattened when they get it wrong. So people like saying, the Mad King says, cheer, and they must have, I don't know what they put instead, and went and hit the floor. So it's nice to point at those people and mock them. But we eventually
only if the Mad King
around,
says you should point.
Yeah.
Yes, when he says point, you can point and threaten and all sorts. But you run around, and eventually he goes around the centre of Lion's Arch, where he finishes up, and if you do enough, then a chest drops, and you get a goodie. And I got the witch's hat, which looks very fine actually. If you look like that, it's got a nice curve to give you the nice "Hey, how you doing?" sort of look. So yeah, it's really fun.
I think my favorite part of Mad King Says is people who weren't necessarily familiar with the command system or hadn't played it in Guild Wars 1. If he said, say no, or say yes, people would just be typing it in local. They'd be like, no, and then drop dead and have no idea why they died or took so much damage, where everyone else knows to, slash no or whatever. So that was, I think, my personal favorite, was everyone who's like, I said no. What is his problem? I said no.
So pedantic.
So that was adorable. And then when he wasn't actually playing his game, he was just like making a patrol of Lion's Arch and stopping to just tell jokes occasionally. And I'm a huge fan of the Mad King and his jokes. So I spent a good long while just following him around, listening to him say terrible things.
What else are you guys hearing about loot? Anybody else hearing about loot, like as far as like anything super epic?
So there were a bunch of chances to get super epic stuff. There would be group events that spawned in the labyrinth that had a pretty good chance originally, until it probably got nerfed through the floor, chance of dropping the Halloween exotic skins. And there was a chance of them dropping from the Mad King's chest in the dungeon. So those were kind of the epic loot of what was going on. And everybody, I think, on this show had their heart set on the crossing.
It's a bit nice.
It is a bit nice.
It's really cool graphic for that. But no, I didn't. I did the labyrinth a few times and dropped the boss that comes through like half a dozen times or something. But nothing dropped for me.
See, no. I know I have bad MMO luck. I've always had bad MMO luck. I'm just, if there's an RNG, I am so screwed. I mean, I opened, okay, so one of the other things that can drop from the chest in the dungeon is Black Lion keys. So
you need some more of those.
I got about 15 Black Lion keys for my dungeon runs. So between those and then the Mad King's chests that you could make out of things from the original Black Lion chests, I had, oh lord, I probably opened about 150 chests total, got nothing out of it. No, I got one, the avian shoulder pads, the least expensive thing out of there I got. And then I ran through the labyrinth 8 billion times, and I ran through the dungeon 8 billion times, got nothing. And so last night I was joking on Twitter, and I was like, hey, who wants to donate to the Elizabeth Really Wants the Crossing Fund? And someone's like, oh, I have a spare. How'd you have a spare? How do you have a spare of the crossing? Like, I don't even know. This guy Shrimpacles was like, yeah, a spare, no big deal.
Yeah, whatever. I got one in reserve. It's like a spare tire in case I get a flat.
Like, just storing it away.
So someone in chat said they got the crossing on their first run through in the dungeon. Now they may just be trolling you.
It's entirely possible. And I thought
But it's quite possible.
I thought this Shrimpacles guy was trolling me, and then he sends it to me, and I was like, this doesn't happen. So I am a proud owner of the crossing, which is why I want to level my necro. But yeah, I have the horrible MMO luck. It's just terrible.
My necro's level 50.
So as far as holiday events go, what do you guys think overall? How would you rate this one compared to other MMOs you guys have played? I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's the best one I've done in an MMO. It just is. It really is. It's the best one. 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's the best.
It's
Nice scale there, Scott.
11.
11. Jesus, really? They set the bar high. Jason, what do you think?
Scale of 1 to 10, I give it a Q.
Oh, perfect. Glad you guys are
Yeah,
playing the game.
no, really good. At least around.
I mean, what do they do? Around what?
In the vicinity of 10.
In the vicinity of 10. You got to give them a
Around
little bit
10,
of leeway.
yeah.
It's their first one. Don't they have to like try to?
They have to have room for improvement. I have to get them room for improvement.
They have to have some room for improvement. I mean, what's the next major holiday event that we should expect on this
Winter's
scale?
Day. Winter's Day will definitely.
What have they done in the
past
past for Winter's Day?
Previously, it has been something that had its own kind of costume brawl type thing, which was a PvP mode that everyone could go into as Grenchies and spirits of something or another. I never really got into it. And then there were drops all around Tyria, and things were decorated, and you had another kind of similar thing to Mad King says. It was, you had these things, and you had to get people on these circles, and then whoever won, you would get a hat themed for that god. But it was a big deal, is the point. So I'm excited to see what they do and how they bring that to this.
Well, they've got something to live up to because they really knocked it out of the park with their first event ever. So it's gonna. I think players are gonna expect more of this. Hopefully, we'll see more and more events that actually live up to the same caliber of content because they really did, I think, exceed everybody's expectations. Hey, really quickly, I want to tell you guys about a deal we got going on with Netflix. Go over to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV to sign up for their free 30-day trial. You get to stream it to your Roku, your iPad, your Xbox, your PS3, your iPhone, whatever electronic device you've got, even your desktop. You sign up. It's free, absolutely free for 30 days. Go to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV for that. If you want to keep it, it's $8 a month after that. I know you're going to love it when you try it. And if you want to keep it, it's $8 a month. If you don't, just cancel it anytime before the free 30 days are up, and you will not be charged a dime. If you guys have not checked it out yet, go over at netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. All right, so as some of the chat room are talking about already, there's the next major game update is coming November 15th already, and we might have some information on what it's all about. So Guild Wars 2 Guru, this was picked up according to Beacon Multimedia, which is the official distributor for Guild Wars 2 in Greece. Had this information. It says the November update will contain a 3-day event concerning a mysterious threat, a new island in the game world, a new PvE mode, and a new PvP features. So first up, I mean, what do you guys? What do you think the authenticity of this is? Is everybody taking this as seems pretty solid to me?
On the one hand, it's not official until ArenaNet says it. On the other hand, I can't imagine their sole distributor in Greece really wanting to damage that relationship. But on the other hand, by lying, but then I don't necessarily think that they would want to do that by leaking information about a big content update. So
yeah, but things get leaked by accident. It's not always that somebody, I think, wanted to damage the relationship. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I said, we don't have confirmation on the authenticity of this, but it seems pretty legit. Scott, what did you think of it?
It looks like there's a high chance that the information that's come out is legitimate. However, it's the wording, because of course it's. I mean, I've only seen a Google translation, I think,
which was not super specific.
Never the most reliable thing, because like we're going to talk about it in a sec, but the actual phrasing of it is confusing, because if the phrasing's correct, then it means huge, like, sort of possible changes, which I'm not sure about. So we've got to wait until we see what the actual content's going to be. Until, I mean, we can speculate, but I don't know. It's the wording's confusing because it puts forth all sorts of possibilities that I would be surprised if it were to come into the game, especially this early.
Jason, you buying this story?
Well, it's marketing speak. Of course, they're going to say it's huge. It's going to change the game. Going to cure cancer, whatever. It's that amazing. But yeah, I think chances are we've seen this sort of stuff before. Where if we see something that does have this kind of detail in it, it usually is legit. So I think it is.
All right. So assuming this up, we will see this update in 15 days. I got to ask, any islands that come to mind that could possibly work for this island, this new area?
There's a couple. Back way back when we were talking about that world map globe thing that had been created, we talked about that the Isle of Janther, I believe it was, and a couple other land features were missing, and so it might be that is what's going to resurface. We might see the Isle of Janther come back. Some people are speculating that it's going to take us to the Ring of Fire, which was this volcanic island that Guild Wars 1 incorporates. I don't necessarily see that. But it might be.
Why is that? Why are you not seeing that?
I don't know. I would think they'd be saving that for something super extra special epic. I don't know. I mean, this might be extra super special epic, whatever I said the first time, and be totally deserving of it. I'm thinking Isle of Janther is a good guess.
Any other speculations? Anyone? Going
Were
once?
guild halls located on their own little island?
They were in the Battle Isles, which were in the mist, that weren't really in a physical location.
I mean, Ring of Fire is possible. I mean, the worry is that it's something Ring of Fire you wouldn't think it'd be in because it's such a big deal that they wouldn't want to run out, go with that content so quick. But when you see the size of the map and the amount of possible content out there, it's difficult to see them running out of it like anytime soon. So even they might not be jumping the gun, going in the Ring of Fire, just because there's so much possibility out there. If it was like your average MMO map that you see, you go, right, there's that little bit off that continent, and eventually they have to create, oh, look, there's a huge land that nobody noticed for all these millennia over there, because they're running out of space. Or before they've started, ArenaNet's given themselves a massive map to work with, like absolutely huge. So it might not be at that crazy that Ring of Fire could come that soon. I mean, it would be a big deal, but it's feasible with the amount of room they've got to grow in the world that they've already opened out for themselves.
What about the PvE mode? What would we be waiting there? Any idea? Any speculations on what this new PvE mode could possibly be? I mean, anything that the community's really clamoring for?
That's when you say mode.
Yeah. It's like
that's specifically what I was talking about when we talk about the phrasing of it. Because if you say PvE mode, then that's a different type of PvE. If you take that literally. So what raids?
Raids, yeah, that's
mini
also
game?
kind of my mind too.
Mini game, maybe.
The thing is, a different mode. We've got mini games.
It's true.
So if we have a different mode, it's not something that's in there. So that's why I'm not sure we can take the phrasing literally, because if we do, that would make it huge. That would make it something that just isn't in the game at all. Not just a type of, not just, oh, it's a mini game that's not in the game. It's a whole style of play that's not in the game. So...
Chat room is voting for Polymock, which made a appearance of sorts in Eye of the North that was not necessarily tremendously well received, but people who liked it really liked it. And ArenaNet said at the time, we want to do this right and we want to do it better sometime in the future. So if it was Polymock,
what was the issue with it? Why wasn't it well received?
It just didn't work really well. It was clunky and not dynamic. You kind of, so you went, and what it was is you're controlling, it was essentially like Pokemon battles. So you've got an opposing thing and you're controlling your Polymock figure in the Polymock arena, and it has these 5 skills, and whoever dies first loses.
So down on the beach, basically, by Lions Arch.
Yes, in that little whatever arena that is backwards.
There's a little arena, yeah.
So that looks like a Polymock arena in the making. So Polymock, I guess, would count as a PvE mode. So I'm guessing it's some sort of mini game.
If they were going to do Polymock, though, I think they'd want to give it more space. Why not just let you control a Polymock figure instead of just being a little figure that's static and does things? You can actually run around, move it around just like any character. That'd be.
I assume it will be something not at all like it was in Eye of the North. Yeah. That would be my assumption.
If it was not well received, yeah. So who knows? And of course, we're just speculating all this here. What about the PvE features? I mean, we know ArenaNet is constantly, we expect them to continually update and add features on the PvP side. But any ideas of what you think that they could be doing here?
Well, maybe the two things that were in Guild Wars 1 that aren't in Guild Wars 2 that everyone keeps asking about is stuff like rankings and spectator mode. So I could see either one of those, maybe.
We know they're both coming, right? We know they're working on them, so who knows? Yeah, so we will find out if this information is correct. I should say we will find out November 15th if this information is authentic. So, all right, next up, starting November 1st, free world transfers will be limited to once every 7 days. I think this is mainly that they're locking this down because of the effect on WVDubs, correct? Pretty much.
Yeah, fair weather fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone at this point expects that ArenaNet should just be giving free transfers whenever, however, whenever.
Ed did a really good Torgrim. You'll see in GuildCast. Did a really good article on the problems with this. In the was it Henge?
Yeah, Henge
were like they were scary in WVW, like really good. And Blackgate got its backside handed to it by them, like, first time round. Then what happened was because people saw that they were the best, they all jumped over to that server to do WVW with them, because we're like, hey, we're going to win all the time too.
We want to be the winners.
Exactly, except, of course, all those people who were not very good, who jumped over, were then all joining the queues to get in. And so the guilds are all like formed alliances together and were so dominant and organized, weren't able to get into WVW with the success that they had before, and it ended up basically they split up and moved off to other servers, and then Henge just went, and now Blackgate's up there, and now waiting for that to happen again. So they're trying to stop that from happening with this weekly lockout. Still not sure that's going to be enough, though, to be honest.
That's what was my next question. Is the 7-day lockout really going to fix this?
Don't think so.
I think what it's going to affect the most are the people who are using server transfers as an alternative to guesting. For example, during the 24-hour stream I did a while back, there were a bunch of people on other servers who were able to get on Sanctum of Ral, played with me for a couple hours, hop back to their own servers. So what it's really doing is screwing over the people who are already being hurt by a lack of guesting. Which is a whole nother barrel of fish.
Guesting, please.
Guesting,
Yes.
please.
Guesting.
Please.
So according to
They've
talked about it, and according to the post, they're actively working on getting it up and running. I don't know. I think we can all agree that this is going to be an awesome feature when it's up and running. It's just when is it actually coming? And
when it's ready.
The problem is this: the way guesting was talked about, guesting wasn't just up and getting ready to be up and running. It was ready. They were just holding back on it while the servers balanced out. Now we're working on it. And the problem is I know for me that there are people I want to go play with, Elizabeth for one, who go and run around a raw with, and we'll be planning on doing stuff. And we go, well, when guesting comes in, we'll do that. And it's been a bit of a while now, so it's to me that's a bit of a problem, because I'd like to be able to do that. That's the feature of the game that I'm feeling the lack of. Right.
And it's a feature that they didn't talk about like as, oh, by the way, we have this cool little thing that we'll introduce eventually. They're like, we have guesting, it's going to change your playing experience, it's going to make servers basically a non-issue, and it's not been put in the game in 2 months. And so it's a problem for me because I cannot leave my server. Sanctum of Ral is consistently full, which means if I leave, I don't have a good chance of getting back. So and it's not like it's super easy for people. There are occasions when it's possible to transfer in, but it's not super easy for people to just hop over because it's mostly full. So it's a really problematic thing because, again, like, limiting the server transfers is really only hurting the people who can do that right now, because World versus World people are in it for the weekly long haul anyway. So it doesn't...
I have to think that they really want this to happen, though, right? With all the issues that are going on with WDubs,
absolutely.
they have to be working on this pretty diligently to try and get this out. There must be some sort of technical issue, hurdle, or something reason that they're not just ready to pull the trigger. But I can't imagine that this has been a feature that's been sort of put on the side burner at all.
No, the issue is originally we were led to believe the only reason there wasn't guesting was because of the servers being too full for guesting to be, and it made sense. It's like, you've already got problems with your servers because they're so rammed, and then you're going to add something like guesting with people switching back and forth. That would have tested the infrastructure beyond the pale. So that was perfectly fine. But now it doesn't seem that that's actually the case. And now it's a case of, is it ready to be implemented? which is very different. And people made, I know people made choices on their servers because they figured guesting would be in very shortly after launch. The lady who's in one of these boxes, in fact, did that because it was like, well, even if I go to this server, it's okay. Within a couple of weeks, a few weeks, when the servers die down a bit, I'll be able to guest and go and play wherever anyway. It won't matter. But that's just not the way it's turned out.
It's what you get for being. It's what you get for trying to be different. Shame on you.
It is a bummer. I know everybody's waiting for this, so hopefully it'll be up and running soon. But I guess so. Lockouts are going to come. Until then, if you want to move to another server, I guess now's the time to do it before they start doing these 7-day lockouts. Also, next up, we're talking about bots this week. Big issue. Their community's been talking about this. So, following a recent GameSpy article, a lot of concern amongst the community. Colin Johansson stepped in and basically said, "We got this." So they hired a team of people focusing just on the botting situation, which I guess is good news. Scott?
We got this. I'm not sure that people are confident in that right now. I've read a few articles for which people talk about it. I haven't experienced it that much. I haven't been able to play as much as I'd like to see it happening. But I know there's a lot of people where it's a really big problem for them.
So you feel like Colin's answer just wasn't sufficient?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, no. If they take care of it, great. Then that's great. If they say, look, guys, we're on it and we're going to get rid of this problem, and that happens, then great. But at the moment, it's a really big issue for a lot of people. And some of the articles I've read talked about people who've actually looked into the kind of bots that are out there. And bots have been out there for a long time, and since not some of them there have been going on since after launch, and still are going on, and that's worrying. So hopefully it is something that can take care of soon, because it's not the sort of issue that you can just sort of laugh off. It's a real problem for people.
I mean, they have said beyond just saying that we got this. He did say they've hired a team of people focusing just on the botting, which I feel like is good news. I mean, this is a game. This is an issue that every MMO across the board has issues with.
Yeah.
But it does lead me to wonder if ArenaNet maybe didn't anticipate possibly how big the problem was going to be for Guild Wars 2.
It doesn't seem like they anticipated how big Guild Wars 2 itself was going to be. I mean, with all the server problems they had, or they're like, we need to stop selling the game. So, like, I think they have more players than they were necessarily planning on dealing with at this point, which also means you have more hacked accounts, you have more bots, you have more of kind of the scum that comes along with the player base. So that's a very likely problem. But I am glad to hear that they are trying to react well to it. Some more proactivism could have been asked for, but you can't really change it.
It's good that they're taking it very seriously. If they're saying, right, we've got a dedicated team to this, A, it means they're taking it seriously, but B, shows you that it is a big problem. So you don't make a department to take care of something that isn't an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and the stuff. I'm not gonna name specific bots or specific things that they can do because I don't want to encourage it. But it's outlandish. It's outlandish what can be done and what people have been seen doing. So the sooner that's, because it can really hurt a game. I mean, stuff like like FPS is like first-person shooter online games where the hacks, you can see through walls and shoot people through walls, all that sort of thing, just ruins the game for people. This isn't quite the same, but it's still an issue to the point that it'll turn people off. So it needs to be taken care of quickly.
Maybe you're not taking them into consideration. Maybe they're playing the game the way they want to play it.
Good. They can hack their own server, make their own. I don't care. Just go away, do somewhere else. Go play it together. Let's make a server for people who bot, and then they can all pretend to be playing.
I know that some people have made their own sort of end game out of harassing bots by, like, if you know that they run in this one line, pull a champion over to that line, and they will just, like, it'll slowly wear them down. Or there's one place that you can get a cauldron of fireworks as, like, a karma thing, and you can spawn it and then drop it, and bots are pressing F all the time, so they'll pick it up, run over to a mob like normal, because the bot doesn't know that it's got this cauldron in its hand, and just start shooting off fireworks while slowly being beat to death by the mob. And that only works till the bot dies once, but like it's a really adorable thing. Or someone in chat mentioned you can use mesmer portals because again they press F all the time, so you can just totally have them running back over their own track many, many times with mesmer portals. So some people are making the best of it by just making life horrible for bots.
There you go. So maybe there needs to be the mesmer police. The mesmer police got to get out there in droves
exactly.
and sort of take the situation into their own hands.
Yeah, but it's like this in every, almost every MMO, and like Scott said, some of the FPSs and so on, where they're just so focused on getting the game up, getting the game finished, getting it in a playable state. And things like in this case, like the trading post online, they just want to get the basic part of the game done, and stuff like that just kind of slips through the cracks. I'm not saying it's acceptable necessarily, but that's kind of what we see in a lot of releases.
Mesmer Police I think new guild just popped up in chat. They're going to start the Mesmer Police. There you go. Let's do some viewer questions. If you guys have questions for GuildCast, make sure to send them to submit@gamebreaker.tv. And of course, watch our Facebook page. We asked there as well. And we're also doing a Tumblr page now and G+ and all that good stuff. So pay attention to those pages as well. Viewer questions are brought to you by Guildhead. So for all of your Guild Wars 2 database needs, make sure to go over to guildhead.com to look all up your stuffs.
Go to the skill calc. They did a huge update on the skill calc a day or two ago.
Yes,
new tooltips, new everything. It's really good.
More choices, more data. Skill calculator update. Go check that out today. All right, so first up this week from Joey Maroney. It's like a regular on the show. I just give him a new spot, maybe his own box. I don't know. He says, Winter's Day was another popular holiday event in the first Guild Wars. However, the human gods haven't really been around since then. What do you think they could do for a winter event? Do you think the gods will return? I'm going to throw this to you first, Liz, because you brought up Winter's Day. What do you think?
So I'm not super sure. It might be that humans are just super traditional, and so they do this to honor the gods, even though the gods have kind of withdrawn, because faith and tenacity is kind of the central element to the human character as a race in Guild Wars 2. So it might be they're like, well, it's been a long time, but we're going to keep holding our snowball fights and standing on oddly colored circles in a city waiting for the gods to arrive. So it might be a thing that they do, or they might take it in a totally different direction, and I really don't know what I would think of that, because the gods are so very absent, where they weren't really in Guild Wars 1. Could be fun.
What do you guys think?
Jesus hasn't been around for 2,000 years. We still celebrate his birthday. Yeah, I went there.
You want to follow that up, Scott?
It's difficult to be honest.
All right, so next up from Kevin J. Redman. Kevin, a little birdie, little chirpy birdie. He says, with Assur and Dominance looming just around the corner, what sort of social programs would you suggest to ensure the other races' continual subservience? Will Golem security be enough? I'm going to start with Scott, so he gets a word in on this one.
I'm thinking they have to come up with some sort of general mind control device, just to simply, takes all of the mess, all of the fuss out, slap something on your rather large round head, and then just control everybody in the area. Just seems to make sense to me.
And they really already have the technology for that started. The Destiny's Edge worked with these stones that could prevent mind control, and I'm sure it's not hard to reverse engineer that to kind of enhance and influence your psychic powers to make people around you obey. And then just other Sora would have to be the ones with the anti-that powder on. So it's in the lore, man. It is right there.
Jason Winter.
I will never bow down to the Asura. Mainly because they're kind of short and I really couldn't get down that low.
Last up, this is from James Reese. He says, how do you guys feel about how gold is being handled so far? It does feel valuable, but is there enough floating around for those who don't seek it out, or even for those who do? Also, baby goes quacking.
Baby goes quacking.
Baby goes quacking.
Baby goes quacking.
What do you think, Liz?
That's so cute. I'm sorry, I'm really fixated on the baby ghost quacking at the moment.
You forgot the question completely.
I feel I was really bitter about gold when in the first month or so of playing. I really resented any time I teleported to a waypoint above like level 30 when it starts to start costing more and more. So I was really bitter, and now I'm not, because once you start not leveling and spending all your money on crafting materials, you suddenly have more money, and it's fabulous.
Scott Hawks.
Yeah, money's not as bad as it seemed to start with. I know there's a lot of complaints. You can't make, somebody said, you can't make any money at level 80. None.
Zero.
If you run a dungeon, then it costs more to run it than it does, and it's not fair, and I don't get money. I want you to investigate this. Somebody messaged me in game one day.
And also invite me to the guild.
Of course, it turned out it was a bug. It was a bug, and of course, the rewards changed because they were nerfing them a little bit. But no, it's once as Liz says, which I'm still leveling up some of my crafting skills. That costs a lot of money.
So much money.
A lot of money. So it might seem like you can't make anything, but as soon as you're not throwing into the vast money sink that is crafting, then you're fine, really.
I'm only crafting things that require bones now.
The bright side is that, yeah, there are some fixed costs in terms of like some of the mats you have to buy from the vendors, but a lot of the big stuff, whether it's the stuff you buy in the auction, the trading post, or if you want to buy gems or so on, it's controlled by the economy, by the rest of the world. So if everyone got 100 gold tomorrow, then you would see gems going for a lot more, or stuff on the trading post going for a lot more because people could afford it, and vice versa. If everybody's money was cut in half, stuff would go for about half the price. So it maybe will balance out pretty well, even if you can't get tons and tons of gold. In theory.
Wow. I was afraid to throw and ask you the question, Jason, with your answers, but that was a good answer.
And also Jesus and Asura.
There you go. Jason Wither. You can read all his great stuff right here on Gamebreaker.tv.
I have a Twitter too, but it's not down there.
It's not down there. What is it?
JAYELUU.
There you go. Follow Jason on the Twitter.
Nice and simple.
Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Claire, follow her on the Twitter at Elizabeth Claire, and go over to Massively each week and read all her great, amazing stuff over there as well. Now she can go tend to those kids in the background making all that noise, looking for candy. Did you put the razor blades in the apples correctly? Okay, perfect.
Get off my yard!
Scott Hawks, follow him on the Twitter at Jarimor, JARIMOR. Go over to Zam.com, go over to Guildhead, Lol King. What else do you want to plug? You got like 13,000 sites.
Wowhead, DayZDB, BL2DB, and I can't say that one.
Oops. Shut up. You can follow me at Gary Gannon. Follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV, and of course we do the show live every single Wednesday at 6 PDT. So come on over for the live show. It's all good. It's all great. It's all fun. Keep your web browsers locked and dialed into Gamebreaker.tv, and I guess we'll probably see you next week. Why did I say probably? No, we will.
Isn't next week the one where we're going to have to scooch it around or something?
Scooch it.
Next week's difficult. Korea.
Oh, yeah, you and your
Scott's abandoning us. Jason,
your...
you can be backup Scott.
There you go. Get your costume ready, Jason. See you next week.
I'll leave my butter out.